One of the most potent astral events of the year is approaching, the blood moon, the total lunar eclipse of September 7th. This energy doesn't just appear on the marked day, it has been accumulating. The essential point you need to understand is simple. This eclipse is not a spectacle, it is a verdict. It accelerates processes and forces conclusions that, afterward, are difficult to reverse. Eclipses like this function as cosmic catalysts, speeding up processes and forcing conclusions that may have been postponed. They bring to light what was in the shadows. And once the truth is revealed, there is no turning back. It is a turning point, a chapter's end, and its strength lies in its finality. The energy of a total eclipse does not appear suddenly. It accumulates, like a tide, that slowly rises before reaching its peak. And the most intense period, the window where the signs become clearer and our intuition sharper, are the 72 hours that precede it. It is exactly this period that we are going to talk about. This is not a guide about the day of the eclipse itself, but about its eve, about September 4th, 5th, and 6th, what you feel, the dreams you have. The truths that are beginning to bubble up now are not random. They are the preface to what is to come. The objective of this transmission is clear: to prepare you. It is to give you the tools so that you can navigate this rising of the tide consciously, so that you can understand the intuitive symptoms that your body is already picking up, and so that you are not caught by surprise by the intensity of what is coming. This is not about predicting the future, but about tuning your perception to the present. What is the universe whispering now before it speaks out loud on the 7th? Let's find out together. To understand what is at stake on September 7th, we first need to break this event down into its parts. First, we will have a full moon. Every full moon is a climax, a moment of culmination and illumination. It is the peak of the lunar cycle, when the seeds of intention we planted in the previous new moon reach their fullness and are revealed under the maximum light of the sun. Full moons naturally bring an energy of completion, of harvest, of seeing the results of what was initiated. They illuminate what was previously in darkness, making situations and our emotions clearer. It is a time of release, of letting go of what has already fulfilled its purpose so that a new cycle can eventually begin. Now add to this the eclipse factor. An eclipse is not just a full moon, it is a full moon with an extraordinarily amplified potency. Think of it as a portal of karmic acceleration. During a lunar eclipse, the Earth positions itself exactly between the sun and the moon, casting its shadow upon the lunar face. Symbolically, this means that our collective shadow, our repressed emotions, our unconscious patterns, our unresolved issues, is projected onto our emotional world, the moon. Eclipses are cosmic reboots. They have the power to drastically realign our trajectory, closing doors definitively and pushing us onto our path of destiny whether we are ready or not. They bring to the surface truths that can no longer be ignored and force endings that are often inevitable and necessary for our evolution. Finally, the third and perhaps most important layer. This event happens with the moon in the sign of Pisces. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, the end of the journey. Its energy is one of dissolution, of transcendence, of surrender, and of connection with the whole. Pisces rules our subconscious, our dreams, our intuition, and our karma. When a powerful eclipse of finality happens in this sign, the themes are not about practical and material endings, but about deep emotional and spiritual conclusions. It is the dissolution of old grievances, the end of patterns of self-sacrifice, the release of energetic ties that no longer serve us. When we put these three layers together, the culmination of the full moon, the force of a total eclipse, and the dissolving energy of Pisces, the message becomes unmistakable. This magnifies endings. This is not about a small cleanup. It is a great emotional and spiritual purge. That is why this event is so decisive. The conclusions it brings tend to be permanent. It is a turning point that redefines our emotional landscape for the future. Therefore, the first thing to do is to recognize the importance of this moment. Take your calendar, look at September 7th, and understand that it will not be an ordinary day. Mark the date, not with fear, but with respect. Mark it as a commitment to yourself, to be present, to observe, and to honor the truths that will emerge. The energy of an eclipse, especially one as potent as this in Pisces, is not limited to our inner world. It works like a high tide that tests all the structures in our lives. Anything that is unstable, fragile, or misaligned will begin to wobble under this growing pressure. In the days leading up to the climax on the 7th, the universe begins to send us external signs, concrete manifestations that reflect the internal cleansing that is to come. Your job in these days is not to act impulsively, but rather to observe attentively. These are the first waves, the first tremors that announce what needs to be looked at with honesty. Pay special attention to three areas of your life: your relationships, your projects, and your finances. In relationships, the eclipse energy works like a truth serum. The dynamics that were unstable, the conversations that were avoided, the feelings that were swallowed, all of this begins to come to the surface, demanding attention. The energy of Pisces dissolves the illusions that sustain fragile connections. What was once a small annoyance can now become intolerable. The truth you were trying to hide from yourself about a friendship, a partnership, or a romance becomes impossibly clear. Eclipses magnify the truth. Therefore, in the coming days, be aware that relationships that were already whispering may explode into truth. This explosion does not have to be a fight or a dramatic confrontation. It can manifest as a silent internal clarity where you finally admit to yourself what is no longer working. It could be a surprisingly calm but definitive conversation that redefines the terms of a connection. The central point is the revelation. The time for whispers, subtext, and assumptions is over. The eclipse demands authenticity, and what is not authentic will be exposed to be healed or released. Likewise, our projects, ambitions, and professional paths undergo a cosmic stress test. Jupiter, the ruling planet of Pisces, speaks of growth and expansion, but an eclipse in this sign tests the sustainability of that expansion. Any project that was built on a foundation of blind optimism without a practical plan or a true alignment with your soul will begin to show its cracks. The energy of reality imposes itself. You may find that the motivation that once drove you has simply disappeared, or that a practical obstacle arises, forcing a reassessment. Do not see this as a failure, but as crucial information. The eclipse is showing you where your energy is being wasted. It reveals what does not have the strength to accompany you in your next cycle of growth. Therefore, observe carefully, because fragile projects show their lack of support. Finally, the combination of an eclipse with the energy of Pisces has a reputation for revealing what is hidden. Pisces rules what is under the surface, the secrets, what is unsaid. Eclipses are triggers for revelation. This energy is particularly potent in matters involving shared resources, debts, investments, and finances, areas where the truth can be complex or deliberately hidden. Be alert for information that comes to you apparently by chance. a bank statement that shows something unexpected, a document that appears, a conversation you overhear. The universe has a way of bringing the facts to light during this window. The information you need to make clearer decisions is on its way. For many, in matters of secrets and money, external confirmations arise. Your task is to be a calm detective of your own life in these next few days. Just observe. Take notes. Receive the information without reacting in the heat of the moment. The universe is handing you the pieces of the puzzle. The complete picture will form on the 7th. Long before an event like this eclipse manifests in the external world through conversations and events, its energy is felt in our inner universe. The physical body and our intuitive field function as extremely sensitive barometers, capable of detecting the changes in cosmic pressure long before our rational mind can even name them. This sensitivity is especially acute now, as the eclipse happens in Pisces, the sign that governs precisely what is not logical, what is not linear, dreams, intuition, the subconscious, collective emotions. Therefore, what you may be feeling in your body and your spirit these days is not imagination, nor baseless anxiety. It is your internal navigation system picking up the first signs of the rising tide. It is your soul giving you an advance warning, a weather report so that you can prepare. Paying attention to these symptoms is the most conscious act you can practice right now. The first arena where these signs manifest powerfully is during sleep. The border between the conscious and subconscious world becomes extremely porous in the days leading up to an eclipse in Pisces. If your nights have been populated by sharper, more vivid, almost cinematic dreams, know that this is a classic symptom. Dreams become the main stage where our psyche processes, rehearses, and releases the emotions that the eclipse is bringing to the surface. You may dream of people from the past, of situations that represent old patterns, or receive symbolic messages that, even if they don't make logical sense, leave a strong emotional impression upon waking. Along with this comes interrupted sleep. Many will find themselves wide awake in the early hours for no apparent reason. This is not necessarily insomnia. Often, it is your energetic field that is so full, so saturated with information downloads and the intensity of emotional processing that it simply wakes you up. It is an invitation to breathe, to be in silence, and to receive the clarity that often only comes in the stillness of the night. Do not fight it, just observe. The second symptom is an internal, almost visceral feeling of being pushed to make a decision. It is a pressure that does not come from the outside, not from a boss or a partner, but from within. A situation you have been tolerating, a relationship that is on the fence, a professional path that leaves you in doubt. All of this may suddenly seem unsustainable. The energy of the eclipse is one of finality, and it creates an internal urgency to resolve what is pending. Procrastination becomes energetically painful. It is important to differentiate this feeling from anxiety. Anxiety is diffuse, fearful, and makes us spin in circles with what-ifs. The pre-eclipse pressure is focused. It is a deep and calm knowing, however uncomfortable, that the time for this is over. It is your soul knocking on the door of your consciousness, saying, "We need to close this cycle to be able to move forward." The time is now. It is a call to sovereignty for you to consciously choose your next step instead of being dragged by circumstances. Finally, perhaps the most physical of the intuitive symptoms is a weight on the chest. A feeling of density, of something stagnant in the heart area. It is not a physical pain, but an emotional presence. This weight is often the physical manifestation of unprocessed emotions, of unconcluded griefs, of unsaid truths that the eclipse is dredging from the bottom of your being to the surface. It is the weight of a goodbye that needs to be said, whether to a person, to an old version of yourself, or to a dream that did not come to fruition. Pisces governs release through compassion and forgiveness. This weight on the chest is an invitation to look at what still ties you to the past with compassion, to be grateful for the lesson, and finally, to prepare to let go. It is your heart doing its own inventory, preparing for the great release that the eclipse will facilitate. If you feel any of these signs, the vivid dreams, the pressure to decide, the weight on the chest, do not be alarmed. Take a deep breath and understand them for what they are, a confirmation that you are in tune. It is proof that your intuition is alive and working perfectly. If you feel this, know it is the window closing. It is the universe giving you the last warnings, the last opportunity to consciously prepare for the powerful and liberating conclusion that is approaching. With awareness of the external signs and internal symptoms, we enter the most practical phase of our preparation, the navigation manual for the turbulent pre-eclipse waters. If the previous chapters were about the what and the why, this one is entirely about the how to carry yourself, how to act, and most importantly, how not to act as the energetic tide rises toward its peak on the 7th. The main directive for the next 3 days can be summarized in one sentence. Observe, do not absorb. Witness, do not react. Think of yourself not as a boat being tossed by the waves, but as the lighthouse, firmly anchored on the rock, observing the storm with a stable and clear light. This is a period for data collection, not for executing risky maneuvers. Your wisdom lies not in action, but in stillness and attentive observation. The power now is in the pause. The first golden rule of this safe navigation is do not make permanent decisions in the heat of emotion. The energy of an eclipse in Pisces is by nature emotionally volatile and sometimes confusing. The clarity it promises is the final clarity, which arrives at the climax of the event. Before that, what we have is an emotional fog, where our perceptions can be distorted by our fears, hopes, and past wounds that are coming to the surface. To make a life-altering decision, like quitting a job, ending a long-term relationship, signing a binding contract, or making a large impulse purchase, in this fog is like trying to navigate a complex ship with a blurry map and a faulty compass. The likelihood of regretting it later is immense. If you feel the urge to act, use a containment tool, the draft. Sit down and write the resignation email, the breakup message, the business proposal. Put all the emotion on paper, but do not click send. Save the draft. Promise yourself that you will reread it on September 8th, when the waters have subsided and total clarity has set in. In most cases, your perspective will have changed drastically. The second crucial rule is do not feed the drama, neither yours nor others. The collective emotional field is hypersensitive now. People are more reactive, more susceptible to misunderstandings, and more prone to projecting their own shadows, engaging in confrontations, heated arguments, gossip, or debates on emotionally charged topics during this period is like throwing a match on a dry field. The situation can escalate disproportionately and unpredictably. Your energy is a precious resource. Do not waste it on battles that are, in their essence, just a symptom of the general turbulence. Practice strategic withdrawal. If a conversation starts to get tense, if someone tries to pull you into their own emotional whirlwind, take a step back with elegance. Use neutral phrases like, "I understand your point of view, but I need a moment to process this." Or, "Can we revisit this topic next week?" This is not an act of weakness, but of immense wisdom. It is consciously choosing to preserve your peace and your energy for your own internal process, which is the top priority now. So, what to do instead? If external action is discouraged, where do we direct our attention? The answer is toward anchoring and neutrality practices. The first step is to write things down. Keep a journal nearby and use it as a laboratory. Write down your dreams, even the strangest ones. Write down the feelings that arise throughout the day without judgment. Write down the synchronicities and the external information you receive. You are creating your own dossier, your personal map of the eclipse. This act of writing takes the emotions out of your system and puts them on paper, allowing you to observe them with more objectivity. The second step is to anchor. With so much watery and ethereal energy from Pisces, contact with the earth element is fundamental. Walk barefoot on the grass, cook a nutritious meal, organize a physical space in your home, focus on your breath. These simple actions keep you present in your body and in reality, preventing you from being carried away by the emotional tide. And finally, the most important step, to welcome. When a difficult feeling arises, sadness, anger, fear, do not fight it. Do not overanalyze it. Just breathe and allow it to be there. Tell yourself, I welcome this sadness. I allow this anger to be here. These emotions are just energy coming to the surface to be released. Your job is not to combat them, but to open the floodgates so they can flow through and leave at the moment of the eclipse. This conscious non-action is the most powerful form of action you can take. It is the act of trusting the process, knowing that clarity will come, and that your only job now is to observe, breathe, and allow. The map for the next few days is now in your hands. You understand the magnitude of what is approaching on the 7th. You recognize the first waves in your relationships and projects, and you know how to decipher the whispers of your intuition, the symptoms that your body wisely sends you. And most importantly, you have the navigation manual, the directive to observe without reacting, to welcome without judging, and to anchor yourself as the emotional tide rises. Remember your position in these days. You are the lighthouse, not the boat. Your strength is not in movement, but in your ability to remain present and conscious, illuminating what is approaching without being carried away by the storm. This is just the warning. What you do with it will define your experience on the day of the eclipse. Every moment of pause you allow yourself, every impulsive decision you postpone, every emotion you welcome without feeding the drama, is an act of conscious preparation. You are actively creating the conditions for the release that the eclipse will bring to be as clean, clear, and liberating as possible. You are not avoiding the event. You are preparing to receive it with power and wisdom. Total clarity will arrive on the 7th. Your job, until then, is to simply witness the truth that is already beginning to emerge in all areas of your life, without the need to force a conclusion ahead of time. Your conscious preparation is your power. If this warning has served you, and you commit to navigating these days with intention, anchor that decision. Like this video, share it with someone who needs this navigation map, and declare your readiness to receive the approaching truth, consciously and courageously, in the comments. I welcome the clarity of this eclipse. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can continue to receive the tools for this journey. The preparation doesn't end here. Tomorrow we will dive even deeper into the 7 strange signs the universe sends just before a total eclipse. You won't want to miss it.